Hooray! The pay-per-views were even worse than I remember. I'm John Redland with a retro review of WCW Halloween Havoc 1995. Is that a head he's got on or a stump? The monster truck rally, the giant not having wet hair despite the fact he apparently went into a goddamn river, and Kevin Sullivan. Oh, and we have, a whole bunch of bullshit on this pay-per-view. This was fucking terrible. I'm not even going to mix words. Fucking terrible. It's one of the worst pay-per-views of the 90s. And that's saying a lot. This is outside of the Jim Herd era when a lot of pay-per-views were goddamn bullshit, and you know what to expect. It's in Detroit, Michigan, and not that the hype was all that great, but this fucking pay-per-view was so bad. Like, how could this pay-per-view have been any worse? Well, maybe it could have been Halloween Havoc 99 or 2000. Oh boy, at least it didn't have a DNA First Blood match. I gotta review that at some point, but this was just bad, just really fucking bad from top to bottom, just terrible. Any of the good matches that could have, elevated this pay-per-view were just buried in a sea of bullshit. 1995 was a fucking rotten year creatively for a lot of WCW. They were getting a little bit better towards the end of 95 despite this pay-per-view, and same with WWE, but both companies, I can't even come up with the words, both companies were just fucking terrible. Cheesy graphics, the hype, the main event, the monster truck stuff, and the morphing. It's morphin' time! Yeah, actually, the Power Rangers being involved probably would have been a little bit better. So, they cut to the trucks revving at each other. Just suddenly, let's just fucking do that. Let's just have that happen. Because we need to have a monster truck rally on a pay-per-view. That's what wrestling fans pay for, a monster truck rally. Whoever came up with these ideas should have been slapped. I'm just saying, this was not even a good pay-per-view for the price. Even half the price, it wouldn't have been that good. Shivani mentions that Ric Flair was attacked and that Arn and Pillman, may have done it earlier or something or whatever. Flair's being tended to, so it may be Arn and Pillman against Sting in a 2-on-1 match because Flair is absolutely determined to get his old friends and is not going to betray Sting, and except he totally fucking does that thing, and Sting looks like a goddamn idiot. But first, we started with DDP and Max Muscle with Kimberly, the Diamond Doll, versus Johnny B. Bad. It's for the TV championship, and what's funny is Kimberly's supposed to hold up the number cards and everything. Hold up the 10s, hold up the 8s and all that, and hold up the 1s if it's the opponents. But she's starting to have issues being around DDP. She wants to get away from him. She wants to be the booty babe, and she wants to be around the booty man. And remember that? Remember that bullshit? Remember when they did that? Why? Why did they give Brutus Beefcake so many goddamn gimmicks? It's not even the worst gimmick that he had, except he had a finishing maneuver called the high knee. Meaning a high knee, not he actually hit him with his ass. As funny as that would have been. Okay, so, distraction during the entrance. Whoever was just dressed up like Johnny B. Bad suddenly shows up, attacks DDP from behind. The thing is, this was actually the most well-worked match on the show. Here's the problem. It also went on about 7 minutes too long. There's nothing wrong with crafting a match where you build up a few good things, but just after DDP had been, DDP had attacked Johnny B. Bad on a previous Nitro, we were going to have this, and it had its moments, but few too many rest holds. Few too many spots where we're like, we're just going to drag this pay-per-view out, and it just wasn't very, it wasn't very good by the end. We got a wrist tape spot where DDP was choking Johnny B. Bad out. We get the Bad move outside, and then in, and then Max Muscle ends up accidentally hitting DDP, and we get a victory by Johnny B. Bad. He is the new TV champion. DDP's upset. And the Diamond Doll at one point held up a 10 for Johnny B. Bad because he was going to end up going, or she was going to end up going with him, even though he would soon leave to go to WWE. So, Shivani and Heenan talk about the Monster Truck match. Again, something that wrestling fans fucking pay for. Dark matches, by the way, were Eddie Guerrero defeating Disco Inferno in about 3.5 minutes, Paul Orndorff defeating the Renegade in about 80 seconds. Remember when Renegade beat Paul Orndorff? Remember that? Remember when he beat Paul Orndorff, I believe, at Bash at the Beach 95? In that TV title run that nobody wanted from the Renegade. Poor Renegade. God, they fucking butchered him from the very beginning. They cut his legs off right from under him. Like, he had no chance to get that gimmick over. Then we get Benoit and Malinko versus the Blue Bloods. I think that match went about 8 minutes. And then we get Pittman, Sergeant Craig Pittman, that is, beating VK Wall Street, former IRS, the former Mike Rotunda. Well, actually, he was Mike Rotunda, just in a former gimmick, in about 3.5 minutes. So yeah, there's your dark matches. The dark matches, by the way, did not combine to go as long as this other match, as the previous match. The first match, DDP versus Johnny B. Bad, went about 15 minutes. 17 minutes. Randy Savage versus Zodiac. Subbing for Kamala, I think Kamala was done. I think he'd gone back to doing truck driving because he was in semi-retirement. And yeah, a fan tries to rush the ring and Heenan making fun of him. Savage should have been able to clock that. Let me just say right here, right now, any fan that rushes a ring, rushes a wrestling event like that, they deserve to be clocked and freaking destroyed and freaking hospitalized. Like, it's one thing to try and do something like, to get on TV, yell and everything, and like, be on that side of the guardrail and maybe not be that belligerent, but yell at the wrestlers because there's a lot of fans that get fired up. You do that and you try to interfere with somebody's livelihood or try to hurt a wrestler, you deserve to be clocked and you deserve to be freaking destroyed. Like, I don't want to hear anybody try to defend that. And that guy should have been freaking arrested, charged, and thrown in jail for at least 3 years. Maybe he would have learned his lesson there. Maybe a bit harsh, but you know what? It would definitely curb people trying to run into a goddamn ring to try and do anything. So, yeah, Zodiac loses in like 90 seconds. In 90 goddamn seconds, which is about 80 seconds too long. Savage should have just gut shot him, hit an elbow, and won because Brutus Beefcake had no business facing Randy Savage or anybody on a WCW pay-per-view. He certainly did not deserve to, be the man with no name or the Butcher. I think he was the Butcher at the time against Hogan to main event Starrcade 1994. Yes, Brutus Beefcake main evented a Starrcade. How fucking sad is that? I don't even hate Brutus Beefcake as a person. I just don't fucking get it. Johnny B. Bad talks about winning the TV title, being inspired and everything. Hopefully he's an inspiration to others. It was a good promo. It was actually pretty good stuff. Kurosawa versus Hawk. All because Kurosawa had broken Hawk's arm or destroyed Hawk's arm before. And it was like 3.5 minutes. And it was impactful, but it seemed like they kind of cut it short because maybe the other match ran long. And they were like, well, shit. Let's have Kurosawa beat Hawk in like 3.5 minutes when Rob Parker holds his feet on the ropes. That's about it. That's what they did right there. Anyway, yeah, well, it was what it was. Savage then talks about facing Luger later and says, Mean Gene, your mustache is crooked. And then Mean Gene fires back with, well, your beard's kind of a little weird. Your beard is weird. It's, the Just for Men gray thing. That's what they were doing that advertisement, except they totally weren't. This was a bit odd, but they go way back, so it sort of made sense. They would joke with each other. JL versus Sabu with the original Sheik. And the original Sheik is down. The Sheik is down. And he had the saber and everything. For no reason. He had a freaking sword. Now, granted, in Detroit, the original Sheik was very, very over for a number of years. Detroit Wrestling, Big Time Wrestling, I believe was the name. They ran, for a while and ran to Kobo and ran it. They did a whole lot of really good business and then died out by, I think, 81? But anyway, well, it wasn't boring. It was just short. And then a moonsault for 3. And that was it. And then Sheik set JL's face on fire. Didn't melt the mask, though, oddly enough. And then we get King Curtis Ayakea yelling, Sullivan! And Sullivan was literally 1 foot from him. Why was he yelling at him? Was he blind? Did he not notice Sullivan was there? Just yelling, Sullivan! Just continuing to yell that. And then I'm not going to try to do the voice, just talking about, the match and the Yeti and destroying Hulkamania. Hulk in all black, and he presents a Harley to some guy who's going to ride it all the way down to wherever the fuck he goes. That's kind of what you do with a Harley, so yeah, we kind of guessed that. Luger versus Ming. This got nearly 15 pissing minutes. Ming had to basically carry Luger. A lot of rest holds as you would expect. Not that you expect these guys to do head scissors and all this shit, but golden spike to Luger. Sullivan then runs in and kicks Luger, which basically awards the match to Luger, and he had to win this match to face Randy Savage later. Now, mind you, Randy Savage beat the Zodiac within a minute and a half. Luger took about 13, 14 minutes to beat Ming and had to get help to do it. Okay, Ming's upset. What the fuck's going on? Giant Mean Gene, hype for the main event. Giant crushing Mean Gene's hand, which was kind of funny. They were still pushing the Giant was the son of Andre the Giant. And then we get Pillman and Arn versus Sting and Flair. Nope, Flair doesn't show up yet because he was taken out backstage. So Sting has to basically go at it alone. Oh, and loud, we want Flair chance. We want Flair. He shows up about 5 minutes later. And Sting takes forever to get over there. He's getting over there. He's trying to crawl. And eventually he gets there. And then Flair immediately attacks him. Damn it, Rick. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal. And, yeah, the fans were pissed about it. And then Sting would beat Flair at, I believe, World War III. Beat him pretty convincingly. And then they would be part of a triangle match where Ric Flair would be the world champion a little bit later. Or would go to face Savage and then be the world champion. And then Flair would become the world champion by beating Savage, either at Starrcade. Did he beat him at Starrcade or he beat him the next night? I don't quite remember. I know that Savage didn't have a very long run. But yeah, Rick, we're reunited and feel so good. They made Sting seem like a goddamn idiot a lot during his WCW run, which it's amazing the Sting was ever that over when fans were seeing him as a goddamn goof. Then Luger says he will go through Savage and make an example of you. Make an example, no, not out of you. Make an example of you. Luger understanding how words work. And then we get Hogan and Giant and the Monster Truck match. Again, something the wrestling fans paid for. Who was this for? Why was it for them? And who the fuck actually would like this? As morbid curiosity as thinking that it's fucking shit, okay, I totally understand that. You want to see train wreck, bullshit on a pay-per-view. I just can't imagine anybody would think this is good. I don't really care for monster trucks. If you do, I ain't gonna knock you guys at all. You do what you do and you enjoy what you enjoy. This shouldn't have been on a wrestling pay-per-view. They're on top of the Kobo, and this was taped the night before. You had to push everybody. You had to push the truck. They were welded together, by the way, human centipede together. And you had to push them out of the traffic circle, and there were also explosive charges on top of this arena. Why were there explosive charges? Why was it on top of an arena? Oh, so they could do this stupid spot. Why was there a monster truck match on a pay-per-view? Oh, so they could do this stupid spot. It was stupid. Have I mentioned it was stupid? It was so goddamn stupid. It somehow, went beyond just being stupid. It was fucking stupid. Unbelievably fucking stupid. It was fucking terrible. Absolutely fucking terrible. So, Hogan wins, and then the Giant and him are battling, and then they get up on the landing, and suddenly the Giant falls off. Oh no, he falls off into the river. They're trying to comb the river, or did he fall on the street side? They're trying to get him. What the fuck's going on? It turns out he fell into the river, and oh no, they're trying to figure out what's going on. The announcers way oversell this. My God, they oversell this. It's Bischoff, Heenan, and some monster truck guy, whoever the fuck he is. He was describing how monster trucks work. At least it was good to have somebody there to explain it. Not that it fucking mattered or belonged on a wrestling pay-per-view. But anyway, so, they're, they're just overselling it. Even during the next match, Savage versus Luger. Now, mind you, Luger had nearly a 14-minute match with Ming where he got destroyed, essentially, especially for most of it. Savage had a 90-minute match, or 90-second match against Zodiac. God forbid, 90-minute match with Zodiac. None of Zodiac's matches should have ever even come close to equaling 90 minutes if you put 10 of them together. Moving on. So why was Luger on the offense for most of this? Why was that the case? They did a bump into Jimmy Hart and then an elbow drop for 3, and Savage won, but Luger was on the offense for most of this. And then Shivani and Heenan yell at each other. We get recaps of the bullshit that went on with the monster truck stuff. And Heenan's yelling, "Can somebody please tell us what's going on, please?" Which was a metaphor, or basically a foreshadowing for what we were going to see in WCW, especially by 99 and 2000. And then Hogan's in the ring. He apologized for what happened to the Giant and all stuff and everything. And then suddenly the music hits. The Giant shows up. No wet hair, no bruising, no nothing. He's just fine. He's just fine. He has regenerative powers, apparently. Regenerative powers. Whatever the fuck. He can regenerate. He can just make himself not be wet. The wetness falls off of him. He gets rid of wetness around him. I don't know how the fuck it works. Nobody did. And then he comes down with Sullivan, and Jimmy Hart is in Hogan's corner. And what happens? What proceeds to happen is one of the worst world title matches in WCW history, at least on pay-per-view. This was fucking terrible. It was the Giant's first match. His first match was on pay-per-view. He'd obviously worked out with Hogan and stuff like that, but he never wrestled. They'd never seen him wrestle. And it was Giant doing what he could. He did hit some impressive chops, but he did mostly wrestled. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. I mean, he was just thrown out there. It was an embarrassing match. It was fucking terrible. Hogan does the leg drop, and then Jimmy Hart, they do this out of the camera frame, but Jimmy Hart hits the referee, Randy Anderson, and the fans are pointing, "No, it's Jimmy, it's Jimmy. Jimmy did it. Hulk, what the hell are you doing?" He gets the ref up. "Jimmy, take care of the ref." And then Jimmy Hart throws the ref down. Poor Randy Anderson. God, I'm amazed he had any bones left because they probably all got shattered. And Jimmy Hart, all 120 pounds of him, hits Hogan. And then Hogan goes to get Jimmy Hart and then gets bear hugged by the Giant. And then Randy Savage and Luger come down. "We're going to help you, buddy." And then Savage gets blasted by Jimmy Hart. Again, all 120 pounds of him. And then Luger stomping on Randy Savage. But don't worry, It gets worse because then the Yeti shows up. Is that a head he's got on or a stump? This is actual shit that we're doing, guys. We're actually putting a Yeti. That's a mummy, by the way. He's a mummy. He's not a furry snow creature. He's a mummy. How is a mummy and a Yeti even close to the same thing? Why was a mummy in a case of ice? Why would a Yeti in wrestling even matter? Why was there a block of ice? Why was King Curtis Ayuke yelling Sullivan all the time? Why was Ron Reese basically destroyed in the very beginning of his career? All this and more questions popped into my head as I'm watching this. Is that a head he's gone on or a stump? Was really funny. And it's a DQ because Jimmy Hart, who was in Hogan's corner, attacked the ref. So the Giant wins. And the Giant leaves with the championship. And then it turns out that Jimmy Hart wrote in a clause in his contract that the title could change hands on DQ. And the Giant's the champion. Then the title gets held up. And then World War III is to crown new champion, which Randy Savage wins. And Hogan complains that he never got eliminated from properly. So naturally he has to overshadow Randy Savage. This was one of the worst pay-per-views I've seen in a very long time. It still holds up as one of the worst. It's peak WCW bullshit. Not that, some of the stuff earlier in the year wasn't bad, but nothing compares to how bad this was. This was fucking abhorrent. Absolutely fucking abhorrent. One of the worst goddamn things I've seen. Oh, and by the way, the Yeti and the Giant, basically you were bear hugging Hogan, and it looked like they were trying to DP him. Now, I ain't here to kink shame. You do whatever the fuck you want, but I'm just like, why was this allowed on pay-per-view? This looks like a different type of, mummy wrestling. Looks like a different kind of, Hogan wrestling. It's really, really bad. Really, really bad. What the fuck was this? A different kind of crazy wrestling that we don't need to see, and my God, my head hurts from this pay-per-view. I'm going to lay down. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.